What is freedom? Are we the most free society there's ever been? Should we want freedom? Such are the questions we're going to answer together during this talk. So first, let's get down to business. What is freedom? I can pull up the definition right here, but each and every one of you has a subjective view of freedom. Freedom has become an abstract concept, sort of floating in the ether. Yet, we are only aware of freedom nowadays when we are not free, when we are oppressed. When this freedom is stripped away from us, only then do we realize that we lack it. So, let's look at some historical events during which, for freedom, people fought and died for. We can look at the French Revolution in the end of the 18th century, or when the famous motto was coined, liberty, equality, fraternity. Later on, we can look at the 1989 fall of the Berlin Wall, which is marked as a cornerstone for the Western civilization. We see that people fought and died for it, that people sacrificed their lives for freedom. So it seems that nowadays, we have hit the pinnacle of freedom. There's nowhere higher to go, because we are at the top of the mountain. Yet, are we? I have prepared a question for you. What was the last time you spent time in public transport and didn't look at your phone? Didn't listen to music? Didn't even read a book? What was the last time you spent time by yourself, alone with your thoughts? It was a while ago, wasn't it? Well, if it helps you, you're not the only one, because an average human spends around 7 hours a day in front of a screen. Yes, 7 hours. And of course, the argument is there that some of that time is spent at work. For now, it's an obligation to sit in front of our desks and work every day. Well, let me give you the benefit of the doubt then. Let's look solely at social media usage. And social media amounts to a staggering number of 2.5 hours a day. That's an average of every human. We can agree that that's around 10% of the day. Of course, freedom is a valuable source of information for us nowadays. But do you always go to social media for information? Let's have an experiment. Let's say that a person is born today and their life expectancy is 80 years. What is 10% of 80 years? Let's crack the math, people. It's 8 years. 8 years of your life you're going to spend scrolling, looking for social media. So, internet has become our new religion. And what is the place that we go to, a sanctuary, as every religion usually does, have a sanctuary? What is the church of the internet? Where do we go for quick dopamine releases? Where do we go for seeking even peace nowadays? You guessed it. It's social media. Now that we are aware of this grave danger that we are in, of the enslavement of our own making, how do we get out of this hole that we have dug for ourselves? The first answer is attitude. I have another question for you. Can a human being be free in prison? What a ridiculous question, isn't it? Obviously not. A prison is built to incarcerate in order to strip away the rights of a prisoner as a punishment. Well, what if I tell you that Viktor Frankl, a renowned psychotherapist, would disagree with you? Frankl, a survivor of the horrors of the Holocaust, told us that attitude lies at the bottom, the most primal level of freedom. That even though for a prisoner, they may not have the choice to leave prison or choose what to eat that day, yet they still have a choice. They have a choice how they approach their imprisonment. And the same goes with us. How do I approach every single situation? My attitude towards it is a representation at the most primal level of our freedom. Well, how do we apply it into our own lives? With the answer comes Albert Camus and his myth of Sisyphus. We are all more or less familiar with the myth where the gods punished Sisyphus for his to roll and push a rock up a mountain only to have it fall back down and have to restart the process all over again. Well, Camus argues that Sisyphus is a representation of the human condition nowadays. How? Our cycle differs only slightly from his. Instead of pushing a rock up the hill and having to restart the process again, our process was like this. We sleep, we eat, we work, and repeat. So, how do we attain happiness and freedom at the same time? Camus proclaims that accepting that your life is nothing more than this cycle, that there is nothing more beyond this suffering, that is the key to happiness. In other words, we all have a rock to push, but whether we push it with a cry or with a smile on our faces is an entirely choice of our own. So I've created for you today a more of a physical representation of freedom, a guide, sort of, to guide you every step of the way, how you can look back, even on this presentation, and think how you can utilize and actualize freedom in your life. I have created the triangle of freedom. As you can see, the three corners can represent how you can implement each and every theme into your own life. The first is responsibility. I don't think I need to spell this one out for you. Responsibility and freedom go hand in hand. How? The prime example of this is leaving the nest by the young adult, is when a person finally goes off to university or to work and leaves home for the first time. They are free from their parents' orders, but now they have to bear a much more of a responsibility on their shoulders. Now they have to face the consequences of their actions. The second pillar, after being aware of the responsibility on our shoulders and how it correlates to freedom, is knowledge. How do we maximize our freedom? How do we make the best out of it? Well, freedom is about choice, that we can agree with. But how do I make the best choice out of all the ones available? By knowing which one is the best for you, which one has the best consequences, after all. This knowledge, this seek for knowledge, the crave for knowledge is fundamental in freedom. So we are more likely familiar with the phrase, knowledge is power. Well, I think I would slightly change that. I would say knowledge is freedom. Last but not least, we are aware that knowledge and responsibility are equally important in freedom. Now, let's go to the last part. Creation. Creation. I'm not an artist. How can I do this? Well, it's not about artistic expression. It's not about painting a beautiful picture, writing a poem, or even a novel. No. It's about creating something out of nothing. That can be, indeed, drawing, journaling, decorating your room, or even making dinner. It's about the act of making something that wasn't there before. That can be an expression of yourself, an extension of yourself. So now that we are aware what lies at the bottom of freedom, our approach, our attitude towards every action we take. Then we are aware of the triangle of freedom, how we can actualize it in our lives, whether that's with knowledge, seeking new information from different sources, even on the media every day, creating something that can be even small, but still. Now that I have given you the theory, it's up to you to utilize it. The ball is in your court. It's your move. So, back to the original question. Should we want freedom? Yes, of course we should. But, there is always a but. We need to be aware of the responsibility on our shoulders. That we need to be mindful in how we use it. Because we have an obligation. To be born free is to be born in debt to all the world's slaves. Thank you.